year, David.
Now let's bring in Florida Congressman and gubernatorial candidate for the state of Florida, Byron Donalds. He's also a member of the House Oversight Committee. Great to see you. I know you were listening to that conversation. I would pay money to see that a direct testimony of Governor Walz before the Oversight Committee. Is that going to happen?
It needs to happen. You're not going to have to pay money. That's going to be public access on C-SPAN for everybody to see. Tim Walz, Keith Ellison, they need to come into Congress and they have to answer a lot of questions. Number one question is, when were you alerted to this? Number two, did you allow any inspector general or any other gubernatorial investigations to move forward? Number three, how long has this been going on under your watch? Those are all the three big questions. Yeah. But I think a bigger issue overall, and people need to understand, is that a lot of these grant programs, a lot of these special programs, the Democrats continuously block audit requirements. They block eligibility requirements for these programs. And when you don't have audits and you don't have eligibility checks, what you are asking for is rampant fraud. That's what's happened in Minnesota. My concern is that Minnesota is the tip of the iceberg. It's happening in many other states around America.
Well, you know, you lead me to an editorial, an op-ed that was in the USA Today, and it kind of gets to the crux of the matter. It's kind of a larger ideological issue. I'm going to quote from it. It says, "Sadly, Minnesota has become a cautionary example of how progressive policies can drain taxpayers' money and undermine the agency and patience of hardworking Minnesotans." And I would add to that Ohioans or Mainers or other places where this kind of fraud has taken place. There does seem to be a connection between these progressive policies where you just throw in millions and billions of dollars without proper questions about who's getting the money and how they're using it.
No, you're absolutely correct. I remember my first year in Congress, I was a part of a panel with a bunch of faith leaders from all over the country. And one of the things they talked about was the fact that there were these programs that were talked about, but they weren't actually seeing the dollars impact people truly in need on the ground, which caused the question at the time, well, what are the internal checks from the federal government, at state government, et cetera, to make sure that whatever is being talked about when it passes in a budget is actually happening in the real world. And this is where I think a lot of the disconnect, again, brought to you by Democrats, they don't want any audits or any eligibility on these funds. So when it comes to Minnesota, we're going to get down to the bottom of it. I think in January, we're going to have state officials come in January and February. The opportunity is available for Governor Walz and the Attorney General Keith Ellison to come in and testify under oath in front of the Oversight Committee to talk about these issues. But the investigations is one thing. I think it's important for my colleagues on Capitol Hill, when we go through government funding on January 30, we either have to restrict these programs 100%, or there have to be real teeth put into these programs. And it can't be something where in the Senate, you have Senate Democrats block real accountability simply because they don't want to hold people accountable. I think people are pissed off about this, and rightfully so.
Well, and
Millions have seen this video. There has to be real accountability.
You know, since they're not going to get bailout from Washington right now, from President Trump, the states are going to go bankrupt. It's that simple. They've been misspending money for so long, it's catching up with them real quick. But it leads me to the larger question of bankruptcy, the United States of America, and this new vote, these new votes that are going to be coming up in January, just right away, as soon as you get back into work, about what to do with a continuing resolution to keep the government going. And of course, the Democrats, they shut down the government a couple of months ago. They got some political play out of it. The media went along with their suggestion that it wasn't them. But they're going to probably try it again, aren't they? How can you stop them from shutting down the government in January?
Well, I can't stop Chuck Schumer from doing stupid things in the United States Senate. My position's clear. I think it's time for the Senate filibuster to end. Democrats, by and large, are not interested in the real reforms.
Forgive me for interrupting, Congressman. I just want to ask, you say ending the filibuster. You're talking about ending it for narrowly on this issue of keeping the government over, or would you just get rid of it lock, stock, and barrel?
No, I think the Senate filibuster is something that's really been destructive of the Senate. Good bills go to die because you can't find a way to get 10 Democrat senators to go along with common sense policy. Furthermore, I would add that what the Senate filibuster does right now, it doesn't breed compromise. It ends compromise before you even have an opportunity to pull it together. The Senate filibuster in its current form was created in 1917. The vote total needed to clear a filibuster at that time was 67 votes. In 1975, the Senate changed the filibuster rule to 60 votes. And the reason they
Yeah.
changed it to 60 is that they couldn't overcome filibusters. The filibuster is something that was created by the Senate for the Senate. It actually does not allow for real compromise. It does not allow for real policy to move forward, things that are critical to actually fixing the mess. You want to get rid of this Minnesota fraud. You want to begin to curtail budgets, find a way to pay down debt, secure the nation's borders once and for all. You got to get it through the Senate. And let's be very clear, Senate Democrats are not interested in common sense policy that's going to decrease costs, protect America, and conserve America for another
All right.
250
Of course,
years.
if
That's
the
my
Democrats
position.
get control of the Senate, you know that means a lot of stuff that they've been pushing on, which you would consider to be pretty crazy stuff, and probably I would too. They could move that through without any kind of barrier to their
Yeah,
actions
but
if
David,
they have a slim
David, here's
majority.
where I'm gonna push back on you real quick.
Go ahead.
They're gonna do it anyway.
Yeah,
Kristen Sinema is not in the Senate anymore. Joe Manchin
I
is
got you.
not in the Senate anymore. Those are the two senators who were opposing ending the filibuster. Yes, I understand. If Senate Democrats have if Democrats writ large have the trifecta, they're going to try to expand the Supreme Court. They're going to go to the California style voting across the United States. They're going to do all kind of crazy stuff. But as Republicans, we have a responsibility to put in common sense policy on energy, on border security, on spending, things that actually make sense for the future of
Okay.
our economy, for the future of our government. The Senate filibuster blocks it. It's time for the Senate to actually do the right thing and make sure common sense policy becomes law in the United States of America.
Well, producers are going to hate me, but I let that go on because it was an important discussion, and I really appreciate, as always, you coming in. Byron Donalds, and stay safe on the campaign trail. We appreciate you coming in. Thanks a million.
Thank
Coming
you.
up,
Happy New Year.
more